2025 has been a pretty rough year for Obsidian so far. Avowed faced major controversy, and it doesn't look like The Outer Worlds 2 is holding up that well so far, because even though it did only release a day ago, the player counts are not that strong on Steam. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I've always thought it's a little bit awkward that companies decide to release their games in the middle of the week. I think that did potentially hurt The Outer Worlds 2's performance. I think that the backlash this game has faced on social media because of its cringe squad and also the anti-capitalism messaging that they plaster on every inch of the marketing material didn't really help. Them wanting to initially charge $80 for this game pushed a lot of people away, and you combine all of that with the fact that it's on Game Pass. I don't really know why anybody would decide to purchase this day one and why they wouldn't just either play it through Game Pass or wait for it to go on discount. But this game is not really holding up so far. Obviously, these numbers might change over launch weekend, but you would think that launch day would still be the highest set of numbers. I mean, games like Battlefield 6, when they shadow drop their Battle Royale, have, 600,000 people in game, and Arc Raiders has over 100,000 people in game the day after The Outer Worlds 2 launch, meaning at least people that wanted to play Outer Worlds 2 are not via Steam. But taking a look at the charts, let's take a peek at what the numbers are for the first game. Outer Worlds 1's all-time peak was 20,349, and as this post points out, the first game was an Epic exclusive for 1 whole year, so these numbers aren't even release numbers, they're just releasing on Steam numbers. So while we do not have the figures for the Epic Games Store, this was, 365 days after launch. You'd think that Outer Worlds 2's figures would have been maybe even double this, at least on the same playing field, and they are not. In-game right now is 11,509 players, the 24-hour peak, which is 13,264, and the all-time peak was 21 hours ago at 13,264. These are definitely not the figures, I'm certain, that they probably were hoping to see on release day. And this did release on several platforms, right? It's not like it just released on Steam, but one would assume they need this game to sell as many copies on as many platforms as possible. I think that that's kind of a no-brainer, but they probably need more than 13,000 people in-game at once for it to have significant purchase figures on a platform like Steam. And even today, the day after release, it still hasn't even touched the peak yesterday on release day. I mean, it's already starting to level out at 11,285 players roughly, which certainly is not a good look. Now, I always thought that this game was going to face problems, at least on Steam, because of the follower count. It was 43,276, and that didn't really sound that good to me. We're talking about Obsidian here, right? Avowed released at the beginning of the year, which hurt their reputation. The developers' statements, the art director's statements hurt their company's image. And I think that while a lot of people do forget a couple of months after the fact, there are plenty of gamers who said, well, you pair all of those statements and the attacks on gamers with Avowed's lower level of quality, pairing that with the fact that they wanted to try to charge $80 for this on release day, and that it is on Game Pass day one. I just think that all of these factors combined did push a lot of people into waiting to either purchase this or playing it on Game Pass, whatever the case may be. But either way, it has not even technically come close to the Outer Worlds 1 year mark numbers, which is so funny to me. But a lot of people are now talking about this, saying, yeah, this isn't good. I think what this game needs is another girl boss character. Yeah, the lead squad of characters really reminded me of KTJL. It just wasn't that appealing, at least in my opinion. I feel like developers need to actually start making good looking, badass characters again, because if you put the soy squad in a game, it's not going to get me to purchase it. It doesn't make me interested in your title. It's doing worse than Avowed. That's pretty much a nail in the coffin for the franchise, although one can argue Outer Worlds was never a prominent franchise in the first place. The first game was boring as hell. I personally was not the biggest fan of the first game. I still thought it was unique enough to get through it, but yeah, I think that modern day Obsidian is just not able to replicate the experiences they previously could, where they came up with really good, well thought out gameplay systems and really cool environments and characters and compelling storylines. And we are seeing this happen with a lot of companies where they will fire the vets, they'll fire the people who have been at a company for 10, 15, 20 years, the people who made these amazing games, and instead they will replace them with juniors who typically are activists. And sure, Obsidian's titles have always featured quite a bit of diversity. They've always been a bit progressive, and that's perfectly fine because they were still creating really cool, unique stories and gameplay and environments. But in this case, it just feels like all of their games are far too similar. Avowed was really mediocre. Outer Worlds 2 looks like it's going to be very similar, and I've heard good things about Outer Worlds 2 from people who pre-ordered it, people in our community. Also, the Steam reviews are not bad, but at the same time, the people who are generally saying it's really good are the people who really love the first game, and I feel like that group of people is pretty small, but you wouldn't expect it to be this small. Now, I personally have a major problem with the mindset at Obsidian because of what happened at the beginning of the year. Leaked Obsidian Slack messages exposed the toxic environment at the developer. The messages show the Obsidian staff celebrating their game coming under fire from ex-owner and world's richest man Elon Musk, while railing against anyone who opposes the idea of pronoun selection in video games. They were really bothered by this. "We've done it," an employee said, while sharing a screenshot of Musk's rebuke of fantasy games that include pronoun selection. He then said that management should let him know if this is too political and voiced a willingness to delete the message if not allowed. At most companies, sharing something so deeply divisive and political would indeed be frowned upon, but when you hire a certain group of people, and only that group of people, of course these messages are perfectly okay because it is an echo chamber. "I've never been more proud," said Daniel Chamberlain, who indicated that he uses he/him pronouns. Another Obsidian employee brought the conversation to former World of Warcraft lead Mark Kern. "Hey everyone, pack it up, we lost Grums. 8 people within the organization laugh reacted to this comment. LOL, this was literally my suggestion. Bug to add pronouns to the menu. I do this." Another person who apparently prefers she/her pronouns sounded off with a meme that claimed triggering conservative snowflakes was so hot right now. So while most of these people were seemingly on the Avowed team, we are still talking about Obsidian. This is still the very toxic company culture and mindset at the studio, which I personally do not like to support. I want to know of every situation like this possible, so I can either avoid giving them my money, avoid playing their games, and of course, they are a group of people who are obviously asking us for our money so they can stay in business, so they can continue to get a paycheck, but it's divisive messages like this that are going to push customers away, and I do think that a certain group of people decided, you know what, I'm not going to purchase Outer Worlds 2 at release, I'm going to wait, if I ever even purchase it, because of all of the bullshit that has surrounded Obsidian and also this game. But while of course they initially were charging $80 and then they went back on that and then acted like the good guys, and we have seen some of these messages leaked from the studio, the Outer Worlds 1 fans are seemingly not showing up to support this game because the Outer Worlds 2 Steam numbers are looking really, really bad right now. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.